Fingers on the table, march in line. Painted shields and swords, they shine so fine. Dice roll like thunder, sealing fate. In this battle of ours, let's not be late. Wargaming in miniature, no war too small. Battles on the tabletop, we'll conquer all. Heroes made of plastic, armies clash and roar. Wargaming in miniature, let's fight some more. Kings and castles rise where soda can stood. Mountains made of books, it's a cardboard wood. Strategy of giants on a scale so flee. We topple empires with a cup of tea. Wargaming in miniature, no war too small. Battles on the tabletop, we'll conquer all. Heroes made of plastic, armies clash and roar. Wargaming in miniature, let's fight some more. Battlegrounds in living rooms, legends unfold in the chaos of dice. Our stories are told from the rookies of war to generals wise. The fate of tiny worlds lies in our eyes. Snacks to the side and the glue close by. We men, broken warriors, give them one more try. Cavalry rides beneath the lamp's warm light. On this tiny frontier, we rewrite the fight. Wargaming in miniature, no war too small. Battles on the tabletop, we'll conquer all. Heroes made of plastic, armies clash and roar. Wargaming in miniature, let's fight some more. Let's fight some more. Let's fight some more. No.
All right, let's go ahead and get this show on the road. There we go. All right. Take this off. Visor on. All right, I hope everybody's doing all right this Friday morning, afternoon. I was planning on starting directly at noon, but a lot of different things came up, and so I pushed it back till 1 o'clock, which is fine. I'm just going to be on here a couple hours working on these 2 Dragoon regiments. We started on them yesterday, filed the bottoms, cleaned off the, maybe I should switch something around. Hang on. There we go. Yeah, filed the bottoms so they would stand, glued the guys on there after I had gone over them with a knife to make sure all the trimmings were off. And then after the stream, I went ahead and primed them using my German red brown. But then I went back over the horses with black brown, except for the leader and the musician. I did those with a black gray. Not that they're going to stay black gray. It was just a different undercoat color for the horses because I do plan to do something different with them. Let's bring the microphone a little closer so you can hear what I'm saying. And here we go. Let's get this show on the road. I've decided instead of doing like a 50-50, 4 or 5 different horse colors throughout the different units, I've decided to do one color of main horse color per unit. If that makes sense. On this one, I'm using Cavalry Brown. On this one, I'm going to be using Flat Earth. I just finished a large cup of coffee. So I'm anticipating having to run to the bathroom here in just a minute. Okay, so that's about 3 or 4 drops of Cavalry Brown. But I'm going to put about the same amount, if not more, water. What that's going to do is it's going to thin the pigment out. So it's going to be like a very thin paint. Yeah, I might need to go rush off real quick before we get started. And then I've got to put my glasses on too, so. Okay, so let me run off real quick, take care of some business in the little boys' room, and then I'll be right back. And then I'll have my glasses here ready to go. Okay, give me a second. Sorry for the delay right at the very beginning. guys, I'm coming back. But I don't think I'm finished. I know it's a horrible feeling to have, but I feel like I left some things unfinished. Okay. Let's how much of a delay is there? Oh my gosh, there's a ton of delay. Let me see if I can't. There you go. All right. Got our glasses. We got our paint mixed up. Now we're not using this color on the musician or the officer, just the troops. And it should be very thin. It feels like it's not thin enough. Okay, now it does. On this one, it does. On that first one, it felt like it was paint. I want it to be almost like a wash. Where I have to do multiple layers, gradually building up the pigment. I might be a little bit off camera, but I'm putting this mostly water color in between all the straps. Leaving the straps the black brown color. Okay. And again, it's mostly water. When it goes on, it looks like it's got heavy pigment, but as it dries, the pigment will start to thin out, and you will just get a very subtle change in colors. needing a second layer. Sometimes a third layer. And there's been times, not this time, but there has been times that I would do a layer with a color, and then the next layer would be a different color, a lighter color, and only hit the highlights, so like the rump and the haunches. Maybe the neck, big areas. Excuse me. Trying to avoid the straps, but if I hit the straps, or if I get right up next to the strap, it'll be okay because of the watered down nature. It'll dry almost transparent. And then with my next layer, I'll do the same. I'll try to avoid the straps. And it'll just make it just a little bit less transparent. Ever since I've started painting my horses this way, basically layering them, I've really loved the way my horses have come out. And it doesn't have to be perfect either, because anything that I'm missing or anything that I don't paint with this cavalry brown will be that black brown underneath. So it's almost like a shadow or pre-wash. it makes it look intentional or whatever. When it's not, it's just a happy accident. And I like the black brown on the mane and the tail, so I leave them usually I usually leave them the same color. Now I used two different black browns. I used a Vallejo black brown on one of the units, and I used the Atom, the MiG Atom on the other unit. And I found that the black browns, they look pretty much identical. Almost, there's no discernible difference between the two paints. Whoop, almost dropped it. Okay, so now I'm not going to get rid of that black brown or that cavalry brown because I'm going to use it on the second layer. But I'm not going to second layer it until that layer dries. So we're going to do two things at once. I'm going to use this flat earth. Now I thought about just using just straight up brown or maybe a lighter brown or something like that. And I struggled last night. I mean, I spent a good 15 minutes going through my different browns trying to decide which one I wanted to use for the horse. And I settled on flat brown. After I do a couple of them, I'll make a judgment call on whether or not it's a good color or not. And it's the same thing. I put more water than paint. Okay, I can already tell it's going to be a great color. I'm happy with my choice. And again, if you're new to the channel, welcome. First of all, welcome to the channel. And I have a lot of painting videos out there. I also have a lot of showcase videos. One of my series is called What Have I Done?, which talks about miniatures that I paint for sale or on commission. And then there's another series, which is actually multiple different series. They're project updates. So if you look, you'll see that I've got Napoleonic project updates. I've got World War II project updates. I've got ancients, medievals. You know, I haven't painted any of my Oathmark miniatures. I just haven't really had the inkling to do that. I was going to paint some dwarves, but my Napoleonics and my ancients have taken precedent. But either way, you can go watch any of those project updates. And what I would do is show off what miniatures I've painted for that project. Project updates are usually for me personally. And what have I done videos are for the store or for commissions, like for other people or for sale to other people. My last video is a project, is a what have I done? And I painted some Prussian Landwehr. Which, if this customer did not specifically request the type of jacket that he requested, I would have naturally just painted him Prussian blue. But he specifically said he wanted them to be light gray, which forced me to look up light gray uniforms. And I was like, oh my gosh, look at that. There's a light gray uniform. I thought that was only the reservists. I didn't realize the Landwehr had that as well. But I'm not really a very big, not proponent, what's the word? Like a Prussian historian. Um, so I don't really know all the ins and outs of the Prussians or the Austrians for that matter. The Prussians and the Russians, the whole Eastern Front kind of thing, I pretty much glazed over it. I focused mainly on the Peninsula War and the late war, like Waterloo, Quatre Bras. So I've got a little bit of knowledge of the minor nations that participated. More info on the French and the British. Okay, that one only has 2 because of the officer and the musician. So my Brunswick contingent is 100% complete. artillery, limber, generals, light infantry, line infantry, the Lieb, and the avant garde. I've got all of them. The Duke of Brunswick. Who dies and his second in command takes over. But you can use the same model. I'm not going to be so anal as to make two contingent commanders knowing that one of them is going to die. Yeah, my Brunswicks are completely done. Nassau, I only have 2 battalions left to do for them. The Netherlanders, 2nd Netherlands Division. I've got the Jaegers and the Belgian line. The British, I think it's Picton's division. I think it's Picton. I've got 2 battalions to do, British. And the French, it sounds like it's more, but that's only because the French is like 1 contingent. But I have the Guard Cavalry. I have the Dragoons, which I'm doing right now in my hand. Yeah, the Polish Lancers and the Dutch Lancers, I've got to do them. And I think it's Guard Chasseurs. So that's like 4 regiments of cav. And then 3 battalions of French light infantry. All right. So that has to dry before I put a second layer on. So we'll go back to this cavalry brown. I'm going to add a little water because I feel like it might have dried up a little bit. Give me a second. What do we got here? We got cherry limeade. Mm. Yum. All right, let's go back to the cavalry brown. Ah, good. It's very wet. Perfect. Go with our second layer. And all I'm doing is dabbing it on. I'm not really trying to do a full coverage, right? Because I'm doing like a blending. And I'm focusing on the raised areas, large areas. Like the rump. Oh, I meant to say this when I was on my diatribe about the different projects that I'm doing and stuff like that. What I what I was trying to get at, and then I got distracted, is that during all these updates, project updates, or what have I done updates or whatever, any of these updates, what I'll do is I'll take my round table, it's a turntable, I'll break it out and I'll put the figures on there. And I'll get the camera in nice and close. And you'll get to see what the figures look like up close and personal. And I'll be able to do that with these as well. And if you watch that update, look for, take a minute or focus on the horse's skin and how it blends. See if that's something you like. And if you don't like it, if you think it doesn't look right or it doesn't look like a good technique, put that in the comments. Let me know. Say, hey, this doesn't look good. This is a better way to do it, or something. Or hey, I've never done it that way. That looks really good. Maybe I'll start doing that. I get a lot of comments like that, believe it or not. And that just lets me know that I'm doing the right thing. I'm sharing good painting techniques. People are learning and elevating their painting themselves. When I first, okay, here's a little story for you. While I'm painting, I'll tell you a little story. In our last house, about, I don't know how many years ago, 10 years ago, I started painting. Hold on, wait a second. '09. How long ago was that? 15 years? 14? Whatever. It was in '09. I know that because I have a t shirt from a convention that I went to, Historicon, that got me excited to paint these American War of Independence figures for this specific game, British Grenadier. But so I started painting these British Grenadier figures, but I had just finished watching a painter paint some Americans World War II. and he had a specific technique. And I said, I wonder, that looks like a really nice looking paint job. I wonder if I could take that technique and apply it to my American War of Independence figures. And I did. They turned out beautiful. And I got a number of comments on those videos saying that they're going to try that technique and see what it looks like on their own figures. And what that technique was, it's a reverse technique. It's a technique that goes against everything you've ever learned, right? And I'm like, that's not going to work. That looks horrible. And then when he did it, I was like, oh my gosh, that looks good. I've always been told from the early ages that you paint out from the skin. Like you paint the skin, then you paint the t-shirt, then you paint the jacket, then you paint the webbing, then you paint his rifle, and then you're done, right? So you start from the skin and you work your way out. Well, this guy said, don't do it that way. He's like, start from the very outside edge, like the rifle or webbing or whatever is the furthest away from the skin. Paint that. And then gradually move your way inward. And be sure. Now, he would prime black or a dark brown, like a black brown or something. He would prime very dark. And he said, on your journey inward, leave gaps between the colors. So what he would do is, as an example, I did this on my American War of Independence. They would have like a blue jacket with the white cross straps. So I paint the white cross straps, and then I would go in and paint the blue jacket, right? Because it's underneath, closer to the skin. And between the cross strap and the jacket, I wouldn't paint the jacket all the way up to the strap. I would leave a little bit of a gap, and it would produce a black line like you see in Games Workshop models and stuff. The black lining technique. But instead of going back in later and adding a black line, he said just paint it up to the edge where you almost touch but don't touch, and that black line will kind of shine through. I had to drink something. Excuse me. And I did that on my 28 millimeter American War of Independence. I guess, yeah, they were for British Grenadier. And they came out looking really good, really sharp. And you almost don't have to wash your model at that point because you've already got all the black edging done. The only time you might need to wash is if you got wrinkles in clothing and stuff. But even then, you could always just highlight them. Okay, that's a lot of water. That's good. Now, since then, I've kind of moved away from that. Namely, because not because it didn't produce a really good looking model, because it did, but I feel like I don't know if I want to say this out loud. It was too much work. I felt like I could get as good results with easier techniques. So I've kind of given up on that paint in from the outside. I now paint from the inside out. Like there is also another technique which I don't use very often. I do use it occasionally, but it's not the inside out or outside in, it's the color. Dark colors first or light colors first. You you can get different results based on like which one you focus on first. But I almost never paint that way. I do keep it, it's in the back of my mind, and I know it does have an effect, but mostly I'm painting inside out. Inside out. Yeah. Inside out, I think, is the best way to go, in my opinion. And even with the inside out, you can still leave a little gap. And let the little black lining take over. which is what I do with these horse blending techniques. I paint everything except the straps. I try to paint in between the straps. Once I get this painted, then I'll check to see if a third layer needs to be done on the cavalry brown. Yeah, okay. I ran my Pendragon game last night. I don't know if you guys are following along with my Pendragon game or if you watch it after the fact or anything like that. I almost lost my cool. I I bit my tongue. I sat there. You could probably see if you watch, you would see me visibly like stop talking. I stop interacting with the players and I just sit there staring at my keyboard. And what was going through my mind was, am I just going to end this campaign right now? Am I just going to quit? Am I going to scold one of my players? Am I going to yell at him? Am I going to tell him what he's doing is not appreciated? Or am I going to bite my tongue and just kind of let it roll off of me like it doesn't bother me? Or what am I going to do? That was what was going through my mind. It was like trying to figure out how I wanted to resolve that issue. And after a few seconds, maybe a minute, I don't know how long it was. It felt like an eternity. I just came back and said, all right, this is what your characters are doing. Basically, I just resumed where I left off, um, realizing that I might have been getting a little too sensitive. And saying something might have damaged our relationship. So I basically just sat there and bit my tongue. And I think I'm going to get on Discord and I'm going to vent in a productive way. Like, not calling anybody out or anything, just saying, guys, remember this is a fantasy game and we're all here to have fun, and sometimes there's a story to be told, and not to get too bent out of shape if something doesn't go your way or whatever. Because one of my players, he, how do I say this politely? He makes stuff up. Not maliciously, and he's not doing it intentionally. I think he just misremembers. Or I also have a feeling that he might be just a little bit damaged. He's prior service. I don't know how many times he's been blown up, but his memory isn't what it should be or could be. And I'm not going to say exactly what happened. I'm going to give you kind of a similar situation that it's not what happened, but it could have happened this way. He has a character who is a knight in King Arthur's court. He believes that his knight is brave. There is a stat on your character sheet that tells you how brave you are. It's called valorous. He's got a pretty high valorous. It's pretty good. So yeah, so he can portray his character as being brave. I think he's got an 18 out of 20. I think it's pretty good. Right? Something happens that is spooky, and I mean like mystical, magical, supernatural. And the scenario says, and I'm playing it, I believe the scenario knows what it's doing. The scenario says that if somebody wants to act in this brave manner, they have to make a valorous roll. They have to roll on their valorous. And if they fail, they don't act. Simple as that. So he rolls, and he fumbles the roll. Because if you ever roll a 20, you fumble. And he rolled a 20. And it said critical on the characters on the screen. It said critical, and he's like, "All right, I critical." And then I looked at his numbers, and I was like, "You didn't subtract the 10 that you were supposed to subtract." He goes, "Oh, yeah, it looks like I added 10." And I was like, "Okay, no worries." So you failed, and he immediately snaps back and says, "I know my character." Whoa. Damn. Okay. Where did that come from? Right? I was like, "I know my character." And I was like, "All right, well, you don't act." And he's like, "I don't get it. Why can't I act? There's all this stuff going on. Why can't I do anything?" And I was like, "There is a scene that's playing out in front of you, and you're taking it in. Everybody in the audience is taking it in. It's not a situation that you would like interject or act. You would take in the scene because someone was giving a speech, basically." And he thinks that his character is more important than he is. Excuse me. And then when he said, "Well, I don't know why I can't act. That's ridiculous. I refuse. I'm going to act." And I'm like, as the game master, I'm sitting here. This is where I shut down. I was like, am I going to yell at this guy? Am I going to scold him? Am I going to educate him? And I just didn't listen to him. I just sat there for a minute in silence. Okay, these I don't think need another layer. I think these are all really good. I'm just doing a little touch-up work right now. Sorry, I got this serious cough. Yeah, these horses look really good. This Cavalry Brown is like top notch. Okay, so these guys are done. The horses are all done. What I want to tell him You know, I slept on it, you know. There was a magical scene, a mystical, mysterious, magical scene transpiring, and nobody acted. You didn't see any of the other knights getting up and running and doing anything because they were all afraid as well. And then finally, uh, Gawain steps forward and takes on the quest. Let me rephrase that. That's not what happened. He steps forward and takes on the challenge. And then the next day, Arthur tells everyone, go out and seek out these treasures and bring them back to me so that we can save Gawain's life. And then the same character steps forward and says, I accept your quest. Well, first of all, it wasn't a request, it was an order, right? So there's no accepting or declining. You were basically going to go do it. You know, if you wanted to be part of Arthur's court and all that. I don't know. It just came across as being very argumentative and very just being difficult. You know what I mean? So I think in the chat today or later, I'm going to take some time and I'm going to write. Oh, the horses are not done. Okay, hold on. Backpedaling. Horses are not done. Why? Because I have a musician's horse, which I'm using silver gray on. Let's go ahead and do that. And I have a officer's horse, which I'm just going to leave that dark gray. I think I might have used not German gray, maybe German gray. Yeah, I might have used German gray on it. I don't remember. Black gray, maybe? I don't remember. Black gray or German gray. I think I used black gray on the two. Now, I did the black gray on the musician because I knew I was going to come back in with silver gray and I wanted it to blend with that better than brown. Okay, I'm not going to need much because there's only 2 horses. A lot of water. So yeah, I was going to go in on the chat and I was going to say something openly, like to everybody in the game. There's only 2 players right now. The third player hasn't shown up in a month. So this morning I actually kicked him out of the game. He's still in our Discord. I'll comment in the Discord that I've removed him from the game. Okay, this is going to be for the musician's horse. And it's the same way. It's blending, low pigment. Lots of water, you know. When it dries, it'll dry transparent. And I'll put a second or third coat on to bring it up to snuff. But yeah, in the chat, I'm gonna say, okay, this is a reminder to all players. Sometimes the game master will say your character does something, even if you, the player, don't want him to do that. I will not do that often. And that's true. I will not do that often. Or I'll try not to do it very often. But there are things out of the player's control the game master is aware of that the players are not aware of. That cause your character to do things. If I was to get on the game and say your character jumps around the room like a chicken, just because the player doesn't want that to happen doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Sometimes there's things going on in the background that the players are unaware of. Maybe a wizard had cast a spell on you to cause you to do this. Maybe I ask you to do a valorous roll and I give you a -10. Just remember. Okay. That's silver gray. I'm going to go back to the first one and do a little touch up work. Yeah, so technically the musician is going to have a white horse, white gray. The officer is going to have a very dark gray horse. And then everyone else in the unit is going to have the color of choice that I painted earlier. either cavalry brown or flat earth. I'm a flat earther. So I had some hot dogs today, just before the stream. That was one of the things that delayed me from starting on time. I was still eating, but I actually went to Alexa in the living room and said, "How long should I cook my hot dogs?" And she said, "Boil them for about 4 to 6 minutes so that they will be heated all the way through." But the point I'm getting at, it sounded like she had a different voice. I don't use Alexa that often, to be honest. I don't. She's there just in case, like that hot dog situation. But but there was something more natural about her voice. I'm I was impressed. She sounded more, I hate to say it, more human. Kind of scary, but also kind of nice. Now I have the second Dragoons pulled up on my monitor. Um, which one of these is the second, and then one of them is the seventh. And I was noticing the second has green saddle blankets. I'm going to assume the seventh does too, but I don't want to assume. Yep, they've got green as well. Yeah, and the magenta, I went ahead and pulled out a P3 paint. This magenta is going to be the 7th regiment color. Red is for the 2nd regiment. Okay, since I'm only doing faces with the flesh, the hands, all the hands I'm doing as gloves. So the faces, I'm just gonna slap them on super quick, and only the front half of the head. Basically, the back half of the head is going to be the brown undercoat if the hair is showing, and if not, if the helmet covers it, then there's no big deal either way. So this flesh is only going to be the face. And if I get it on the helmet or if I get it on the jacket, it doesn't matter. Because I still have to paint the helmet and the jacket. So and I'm using Ionic neutral flesh. Ionic it's also a MIG ammo paint. It's water based, of course. It's an acrylic. Um, but the Ionic is there's a whole line of Ionics. I got one. I don't. That's like the only Ionic that I got because I was just gonna test it out. Being I can't find the perfect flesh. I don't know what it is about flesh. It's so elusive to me. But this flesh color is actually a pretty good flesh color. One of the better ones that I found. And yeah. So here we go, just slapping it on the face. I'm going to get it on the collar, probably. I'm going to get it on the helmet, probably. Gloves. And then the flesh will be done. I won't have to deal with it. Because I'm not doing hands or anything, I'm doing gloves. And units that don't have gloves, I usually paint the face and then paint other parts of the model. And then when I get close to the finish, I'll jump in and paint the hands. But I won't have to do that this time around. Now, I meant to go online and look up what makes a primer a primer, right? Because is a primer just a paint? Or what qualifies it as a primer? I would assume it has something to do with its ability to kind of absorb into the material that you're painting. Or maybe it has something to do with its adherence to the model. Or something, because I've got all these brush on primers over here, and I used to use spray primers specifically when I did plastics. I would use like Fusion. That was new technology at the time when I was doing plastics, soft plastics, and Fusion would like melt into the plastic. Okay, so this flesh done. Not coming back to it. This green I'm going to do in multiple. It's going to be the jacket and the blanket, but I'm just going to do the blanket right now. And I'm using deep green. I could be using hunter green. That would be a very appropriate color. Or a forest green. But for the blankets, I'm going to be using deep green. You can see that. Forest green just seems to be a little bit too, I don't know. I don't know. It's got a different look to it. And then I've got Chasseur green, which this is hunter green or Chasseur green, vert Chasseur. I'll probably be using that for the jacket. But I think deep green, Chasseur green, forest green, they all are pretty similar. Let's see, can I get into their blanky? Not with this brush. This brush is too big. Okay. Try something a little different. I actually cleaned a bunch of brushes using mineral spirits a couple of days ago, as opposed to my magic potion. Okay. The yeah, there must be too much water in this. So not only is the blanket green, but the little pistol covers in the back of the saddle is also green. My stomach is going wild. I don't know if you can hear that, but damn. There's also like a black and white fur that they're sitting on, but you pretty much can't see that. If I get to painting any of these and that's actually showing, then I'll worry about it. And I am working from the horse upwards. So that's why I'm doing the saddle blanket. I was planning on doing the pants and then the jacket. That's why there was going to be a two-step process to this green. Okay, that's a mismold right there. I was like, that blanket doesn't look right. Well, that's because it's not right. It goes on looking like it's the right color, but then as it dries, it gets really dark. I don't like that. I'm thinking it's because I put too much water in it. And it's blending. If that's the case, I'll just do another coat. See what that looks like. Okay, okay. Yeah, it's probably the watered version. The second coat is coming out all right. Might need to add another squeeze or another squirt. What I think I'm going to do is just go ahead and put a little bit of this in there. Yeah, it's got a little bit different pigment. This is a little bit darker than this. But it's almost impossible to notice. Oh, now it's going on nice. Yeah. It just needed to be thickened up a little bit. And it's I'm not really trying to paint within the lines. I am a little bit, but it's not really that important because I have so much more of the model that needs to be painted. So like I don't care if I get it on the pants or the boot or his back or sword straps. Because I still have to paint those. Like your prime colors, like this Chasseur green or black or white, I really recommend folk art. Not the other craft paints, just folk art. Because it's got a really good pigment. um, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a pigment quantity, I guess, or pigment thickness or quality. It's got a good quality to it. And the price is right. Like, how much black do you use? How much white do you use? Probably a lot. So it's worth getting a big bottle like that. Because that big bottle is like $6.99. And a little bottle like this of Vallejo is like $4.99 or $3.99, maybe $4. And with black and white, you can prime with the black and white or cover your primer with the black and white. So prime with one paint and then cover the primer with your black and white. You can lighten your colors with white. You can darken them with black. If you paint a lot of Napoleonics figures, you know that you use a lot of white and black. Boots and shakos and leather straps. Lots of black and white. I use sword sheaths, cartridge boxes. So if you're going to use that much black and white, you might as well get a big bottle of it. I got an itchy nose. They also have like browns. There's one brown color that I use quite a bit. It's that nutmeg. I was using it for horses for a while. Pretty much stopped with that color. I use that on a lot of terrain nowadays. That's another thing. If you're painting a big piece of terrain, you don't want to use Vallejo. But folk art is awesome for basing and painting terrain, roads. Whenever I do road pieces, I use nutmeg, the giant nutmeg bottle as my base coat. And then I do a dry brush of some other lighter brown. Yeah, I went through all those models and I don't see their saddle at all. The little fur thing that they're sitting on. All I see is the blanket, and very little of it, actually. Yeah, I'll probably get about 10 more minutes of live streaming, and then I'll be off for the day. I already ate, so I'm not breaking for lunch, obviously. But I think I want to craft it a chat in Discord. And I don't want to come across as being the a-hole. I want to be the helpful, jolly game master that's just trying to basically remind everybody, you know, what's going on, why certain things happen the way they do. Now, these blankets have an edge to them, like silver or gold or whatever it is. Once I get that edging on the blankets, they'll really pop. They'll really stand out. Now, letting you guys know, um, I might be on tomorrow. There is a chance that I will be on tomorrow. And that chance is whether or not my wife is going to this SCA event. There's a winter market or something, is what it's called. And I think she's going to take a bunch of stuff to sell. And if she does, I'll get online. And I'll probably finish these guys because these guys are not hard to paint. Yeah. I like the chasseur green with a little bit of deep green mixed in. I think it looks really good. Don't know how many of you guys watch football, but my Titans are going to play the 49ers on Sunday. And it's going to be a late game. It's going to be, for me, it's going to be like 3 o'clock, almost 4 o'clock when it starts. It's like a 1 o'clock or something start time in San Francisco. Which I'm like 2 hours away. Oh, this guy's got a bag on. Wait, he's the only one. He's got a bag on his back. Who is this guy? Yeah, I haven't seen that bag before. Like a messenger bag. Huh, interesting. Nope, he's got it too. So does he. Okay, I just hadn't noticed him. Yeah, so I'm going to watch that game on Sunday. I'm not expecting much. I'm expecting to lose. Um, but I'm still going to watch because I want to see what kind of fight um, the Titans have. Let's see, are they trying to win or are they trying to tank? Are they trying to win and they're just really bad? Because I want to kind of see how the team looks. Think of it kind of like a preseason for next year. Like, do we want to keep any of these players? Do we want to get rid of them? Are they as bad as they are, or are they just surrounded by a bunch of other bad people, or that kind of stuff. So really, I'm watching it more on the evaluation side of my brain and less on the competitive side. Okay, so that's all the saddles. I've got enough green. I probably could do their jackets and then come back in and do their pants later. I mean, it's hard to even see their pants. Let's see if I can do a jacket. It's also kind of hard to see the lapel. Because it's covered with so much, so many straps and stuff. All right, well, let's keep. Some of them I can, some of them I can't. That's all right. Yep. When I paint this green, I can paint it on the pants. I can paint it on their collar. I can paint it on their gloves, their straps, horsehair, whatever. I just don't want to paint their face. Yeah, like this guy's lapel is plain as day, so I'll be able to paint his. So some of them, yes. Ooh, had a little slip there. Man, keep slipping. Okay, let's see if I can clean this up a little bit. I touched the horsehair with some green, and that doesn't look good. Doesn't look good. Okay, there it goes. It is gone. Yay! Interesting. Even the musicians have green jackets. Just the lacing is done a little differently. Okay. All right. When I work through this green, that's when we'll end the stream. I'm not gonna make any more green. So I don't think I'm going to be able to finish all these figures with the amount of green that I've already got. I haven't played any online games lately. I just haven't really had the draw. You know? Like, I would be up and I'd be available and I'd be like, do I want to log in? Nah. I got other things to do. But I might log in tonight. I'm kind of getting that itch. You know? What I've been thinking about doing is a galactic tour for Pyro. Going over all the different moons and planets and stuff, showing off all their biomes and stuff like that. But knowing that there's a incoming patch I almost want to wait for the patch. But if I keep waiting, then it's never going to happen, right? Because as soon as this patch hits, they'll be working on the next one. But the reason why I've been hesitant is because there's almost always a wipe where they clean up all the accounts and they make you restart. And I don't want to pick Pyro as my home of record. So we'll have to start. Basically, I can. This is what I've been thinking. I can start the tour and then get a wipe, go back to Stanton, just live with the wipe, and then just restart and just continue. It would be just having to make that trip again, which is no big deal in the game. Okay, I think that one looks okay. Okay, well, I'm pretty much came to the end of this green. I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel here. Okay. All right, guys. Well, this is where we're going to call this stream. Thank you for coming out and hanging out with me. I appreciate it. And I might be on again tomorrow, depending on if my wife does go to this swap meet or whatever it is. It's called the Winter Market, I think is what it's called. It's an SCA thing. She's got a bunch of fabric and stuff she wants to sell. I think that's what is piled up in our back door. I think she's getting ready to load up the car to go. Now I don't know if she's going tonight or if she's gonna wait till the morning and then do like a day trip, like go and then come back that night. Or I could be wrong. She might not even be going. But if she is, I'll be online. If not, I'll probably not be online. All right. And I will catch you in the next one, guys.